Hi, everybody. Welcome to our Friday Tech Talk. My name is Forrest. I'm the Job Placement Director here at the Tech Academy. Today, we're joined by Robbie. He's going to walk us through a little bit of his history in the tech industry. Just like many of you, he wasn't always in the industry, and he broke into it, found a passion for it, and has since grown a particular passion for blockchain and cryptocurrencies. Today, he's going to talk a little bit about what that means and what you can do to get involved in the space. Give us a little bit of demo of what that looks like and a little presentation. So Robbie, without further ado, I appreciate you coming here today and giving us this talk. You can go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction, and thank you everyone for taking some time on Friday. I know we're getting pretty close to holiday time, but I did want to go ahead and take this opportunity to kind of share not only kind of the pathway that I took coming from essentially like beverage and hospitality and client customer service, but like my segue into technology and some of the realizations that I had moving forward throughout this experience. So I guess to give a very, very quick summary on me before we kind of start on the presentation. So for a very long time, I was in specialty coffee, and I was a certified Q grader, and I had the opportunity to kind of travel around and to act as essentially a consultant for people who were curious to perhaps open up their own bar, their own restaurant, their own coffee shop, and to consult them about what this looked like, what the overhead might be, how they could get training, materials, machinery, et cetera, et cetera. And I'd always been interested in technology, and I kind of like poked around with HTML, CSS, JS on my own, but decided, you know what, if I really want to like go for this, I should probably just go for this. And I enrolled in a boot camp in Portland, Oregon. And this focused on front end. So it, was the HTML, CSS, the JS into React, a little bit of Angular, and a little bit of UX as well. So we kind of like played around with CS6, with Photoshop, with Figma, with Sketch. Shortly after that, I then obtained an internship in which I was working for an ad agency. And the ad agency was like really fantastic. It was part of the boot camp I was in. Is we had essentially an internship that we had for a few weeks, and I was very appreciative, and I really enjoyed the mentorship that I got out of it. That internship kind of extended a few times, and I was doing a lot of WordPress work, and I was very happy to kind of get my foot in the door, because I know with technology, kind of the hardest part is just getting someone to say like, yeah, we'll give you a try. Because like once you get past that, we'll give you a try part, then the rest of it starts to get easier and easier and easier. So for everyone who's maybe a little nervous about that part, I get it, and you have a right to be nervous, and it's probably healthy that you're nervous because that means you care. But know that if you just stay with it and you just keep pushing along, the list I had of places I applied to for internships or junior positions, and the callbacks or the no thank yous I have is comical. If it was a scroll, it hit the ground, and I'm not that short. But the point is just to not give up, right, and to keep going at it, because when you're new, it can be a little difficult. But shortly after I had the opportunity to start to work at the company I worked for as an ad agency, I really started to think about, why am I in technology? And so part of the reason I was in technology is because it was very fascinating to me. And I started to dig a little deeper about what parts of technology were interesting to me. I don't want to be in tech simply to be in tech. I want to pursue what I'm actually like very passionate about. And so I had seen that there was an internship that was available at CONSENSYS. And for those who may or may not be aware, CONSENSYS deals with Ethereum, and Ethereum lives in kind of this like blockchain space. I'm sure if you've maybe or maybe not heard of blockchain, you've perhaps heard of Bitcoin, or maybe you've heard of Ethereum. But what's great, thank you, Clemens, for the link. What's great about Ethereum from a developer standpoint is you're able to do a lot with it. You can build with it. You can have an idea, and you can use the Ethereum technology to build your idea out. And we're going to talk about this a little later, so please don't worry if like that doesn't make sense. But that's just to give you a little oversight. So I went from the position I was in to a boot camp to an internship that I was very appreciative of, and then kind of had this epiphany of, you know what, I'm a student of technology, therefore I'm always a student, and I want to study what is most fascinating to me, and I'm curious about the bleeding edge. And so I was offered a full-time position at the ad agency that I was in, and instead actually went in, took an internship with CONSENSYS, and about a year and a half later, here I am giving this talk. So that's kind of a short rundown of kind of where I'm at and what my pathway was. So without further ado, I also want to say during this conversation, if anyone has questions, if anyone wants me to stop, this is a conversation. I really want it to be a conversation. Raise your hand, ping, say something. Just let me know if you want me to touch on something. Otherwise, I'm going to kind of keep cruising and we can field some questions at the end of this. So the concept of this whole presentation is breaking into blockchain, right? Leveraging your current abilities and building in a new space. So why are you sitting in your chair right now, right? I think there could be a couple of quotes. I want a higher paying job. I want job security. I'm really interested in technology. I can't go outside, so why not? If anyone else has something else they wanted to pipe up and kind of add to this list, please, again, I want this to be open, but your silence doesn't scare me. So I could just like plow ahead. I'll give a moment if anyone wants to add to this. I live with awkward silence. Doesn't bother me. Sounds good. Okay. So for me, the biggest thing was I was really interested in technology. And I was admittingly also interested in kind of trying to gain some sort of job security. Technology obviously isn't going anywhere. And yet, as Clemens mentioned, that he's going to be here and he's going to be he's going to be the quarterback, making sure that everything is running. If anyone has any questions, please throw those in chat. So for me, I was interested in technology and I wanted to position myself where I could perhaps like leverage what I felt I had to contribute to society in a larger scale that didn't revolve around necessarily just a brick and mortar. So the life cycle of a developer. Everyone here is in a boot camp. Everyone it looks like probably getting close to being about done. What does that look like? You start out by learning a language. You become wealthy with bugs and frustration. You understand your mistakes, you fix them, you add complexity to your projects, and you realize you need to learn a lot more to implement the new features you want to add, and this rinses and repeats. And this cycle never, ever stops. You're always going to be looking at the console log. You're always going to be opening up, Windows Alt-J, and seeing all the red on the right side, trying to figure out what's wrong. Or at least for me. Is it Option Command J? It depends. I saw a couple of faces. But opening up like the dev tools, essentially, is what I'm getting at. So this is the life cycle of a developer. And if you feel like, man, I can't wait until I know everything and I don't have to deal with bugs anymore, that day doesn't come. And I'm sure you probably have realized that already. What it comes down to when it comes to being a developer is more than anything, understanding how to solve your problem faster. This does not mean you are going to get some big brain and just hold all Lang knowledge in your head, but you're going to be able to ask the right questions faster to be able to expedite that bug process, to debug yourself, and to continue to move forward. So this cycle I hold close to heart, and I live with it myself as a developer every day. What is being a developer all about? And to me, it's about persistence. Any job you take, regardless of the industry, is going to require technology you don't know. I graduated knowing ABC. I walked into an internship and they said, okay, that's great. We need you to do DEF, right? So just because you think you have a good grasp on something, and there are good fundamentals to keep in mind, absolutely. Everyone should have a loose understanding of HTML, CSS, something that's back-end, something that's front-end, having just a general idea. But more than anything, having the ability to learn on the spot. And I think that's what a lot of these boot camps position you to do, is to learn how to learn. And that means more than any Lang mastery that you might have, because a Lang you know today might not be a Lang that's used tomorrow. So always kind of keep this in mind, and always pivot yourself to be as sponge-like as possible, to learn as much as you have to at least get a foundation as to how to utilize technology and then how to build upon it. Networking is going to be one of your strongest tools. Now, obviously, I understand this is, in a way, a little more difficult now because we are dealing with COVID, and we're dealing with a very remote forward world. And so having this kind of like human-to-human interaction can kind of feel a little goofy when it's on Zoom. But I do think it still is a huge effort, and you get a lot out of it when you have these communications with other people and you just kind of touch base and see, where are you? What are you working on? That sounds really interesting. Can you share with me? Here's what I'm doing. Let me share with you. And we do our best to still have these, in my opinion, very important human interactions, even if they're not necessarily face-to-face. So a combination of separating yourself with open source contributions, stack abilities, and personality is going to help you separate yourself when it comes down to trying to acquire an internship, when you're trying to acquire a junior job, a mid-level job, or whatever your situation might be. I do think that there's a bit of a recipe that people look for, at least from my experience when I went through the interview process myself, what people I found to be consistently asking. And it was, are you doing anything with open source? What's your stack? What's your tool belt look like? But most importantly, it did, I think, come down to personality. You know, are you going to work well with the team? Are you going to be someone who's willing to take criticism? Are you going to handle pressure okay? Are you just going to be friendly and have a good, you know, kind of what would be the word? I guess just like atmosphere to you. Are you going to have a good mindset when you come into work and you work with other people on more logic forward problems? I want to talk about job market examples. So what I'm going to show you is a job market I found, or rather a job example I found in Portland. This is a wall of text, but it's supposed to be. So this is for a junior level job. We'll cover this quickly. Don't focus on reading it. I want HTML. I want CSS. I want JS. I want to make sure that you have experience with front end, full stack frameworks, MAMP. I want to see Docker. I want to see RESTful APIs. I want to see version controls. I want Git proficiency. I want to see you're good with CMS. You're able to manage sites and host deployment via Heroku, Netlify. Oh, also, I want to see that you're good with Python. I would like to see you good with PHP. Hopefully, you're solid with AWS. You have the ability to learn, handle critiques. You're flexible, you're responsive, and you're taking in feedback. You have excellent time management skills. You have strong organization skills. You have superior attention to detail. This is a junior development job posting, right? This is, in my opinion, insane. This is like 3 jobs put together, right? And the salary that I looked into when I poked into this was not 3 jobs put together worth. And so this to me was like pretty upsetting. So just an overview of this posting. Right, we can see I bolded some of the things that might be a little more applicable to you. HTML, the SaaS, front end. I want Docker, which Docker is excellent to like get your head around, but you know you've got to get lost in there for a little bit. The same thing with AWS. PHP and Python are very different, and they do very different things. Git proficiency, I would assume everyone here is at least relatively familiar with navigating the terminal, being able to push and pull and merge and there's just a lot here. Now, this isn't even the best part. This isn't even their preferred skills. So now they want to see, are you familiar with Node? Are you familiar with Django? What about creating your own Webpacks with parcels and Grunt and Gulp, JAS tools, data structures? Ridiculous, right? And so this is a real post. And this was just pulled from Glassdoor. So the point of this is to say that finding a position doesn't necessarily require all of your mind being able to hold this information. But the point I want to drive is that choosing tech as a career above all else means that you've chosen to always explore and to learn new material. And this is something that above all else, I want you to really keep in your head. You've all signed up to be a student forever. You can't just know one thing and call it a day and say, I'm just going to ride this out for the next 30 years and I'll be fine. That's not really how technology works. We always have to kind of keep up to date with what people are using, because at the end of the day, the new tools that are coming out are ideally going to make our life faster and easier. So it's in our best interest to keep up with the technologies. And just as Gordon might say, this is too much in terms of all of the things that we just saw. I was flabbergasted, and I love using that word. I was flabbergasted when I saw that some of these were the requirements for a junior level position that was paying under $40,000 a year. Something to consider, as I've kind of touched on already. Any job you take is going to require tech knowledge, restructuring. You're not going to walk in there and you're not going to know their stack. Or even if you know a particular language, you might not know how they're using that language or how they're repurposing some of the tools that you might be familiar with. If you have an interest in a stack, you should explore that stack. You don't want to get a job doing a thing that you absolutely hate. Now, I understand, like, coming into this space as a developer, as a junior developer, getting your foot in the door, as I mentioned earlier, is very important. So getting your foot in the door is going to be huge. And, you know, I was not particularly interested in ad agency work. However, I did want to experience what it was like to work with other teams on an agile team, to be able to pull down code that other people are working on and to get kind of a taste of it. So I would say, you know, expedite the process in which you can start to experience technology from a professional standpoint, but always keep in the back of the head what excites you most. If that's ML, if that's AI, if that's crypto, if that's ad, if that's, you know, like starting to work on like Rust because you want to like repurpose some software, whatever the case is, keep that in the back of your head and always try to work towards that, because I think it's very important that you pursue what you want to in technology, because more than anything, that's going to give you a breath, that's going to give you longevity in the space. But again, with that said, I do want to emphasize, when you are starting out, it is important to get your foot in that door, which might not be exactly what you want it to be, but just in my case, it wasn't the case. It was still absolutely pivotal in order for me to get the stepping stones I needed. So always think about your advancement in technology to be this ladder that you're always like working towards. Pursue your interest. Major transitions when you first start can and will be nerve-wracking. I'm sure everyone, when they started this boot camp, when I started my boot camp, when I started my internship, when I started my job at CONSENSYS, imposter syndrome is real. It doesn't go away. Whisper, whisper, if you didn't know that, never goes away. You always feel like someone's going to call me out because I don't know what I'm doing. So you're always going to be in the pursuit of learning more, of contributing more, and trying to position yourself where you can just be a sponge. So I want to talk about the blockchain ecosystem. And we're going to talk about this at a higher level. And this is where we're going to start to get into kind of the grit of some technology. And at any point, if anyone wants a flag, I know Clemens is in the chat, but please, I welcome you, unmute, you ask something, and let's talk about it. So we're going to talk about standard web versus decentralized web. So standard web is client service model, databases, cloud computing, content distributed networks. Architectures define owners and a single source of truth. Users connect to this server. Cloud and CDN networks operate behind the scenes, but support a centralized architecture. If we look at the internet as it currently stands, it is a centralized space. There are essentially these pillars that hold all of our information, and they collect this information, and we, to a certain degree, or to actually a large degree, are not in control of that. We are trusting the centralized web to take care of this for us. Just as when we talk about banks, we are trusting, I just made $100, I'm gonna go put this in my bank. We're gonna trust that tomorrow my $100 is still in that bank, and we're also gonna trust that $100 is still worth $100. So there's a lot of trust that we put into the vicinities that we've kind of created as a society every day, be it digitally or physically. The decentralized web, what we're doing is, while modern networks include decentralized CDNs and cloud infrastructure, they may not be actually decentralized, even if they're architecturally or logically decentralized. There's an owner, a controller, an operator. Decentralized blockchain enables web apps included and connected to networks like Ethereum to provide true decentralized processes. So maybe this makes sense, maybe this doesn't, but we're going to talk about this a little deeper in just a moment. But again, you got a flag, throw it in the air, and we can talk about it. The idea is we are trying to move into a decentralized platform. We are trying to remove the trust of a person, and we are trying to live in a trustless environment in which we can trust the code that has been audited, so we don't have to worry about human manipulation or deceit. So how does blockchain work? On the right side, hopefully you can see this. If it's a little blurry, I'm sorry, I could talk about it. Person A wants to send money to person B. This transaction is represented online as a block. The block is broadcast to everyone in the network. The network approves the transaction. The block is added to the existing blocks, and the transaction is complete. This is kind of a very high level, simple way to think about this. But to give an example, let's say I say, hey, Clemens, I want to borrow $10 from you. And Clemens says, okay, sure, but you got to pay it back in a week. I say, okay, sounds good. So now there's a transaction happening between Clemens and I. Clemens is going to let me borrow $10, and I have 7 days to pay this back. And this has been recorded on the blockchain. And everyone here is a validator of this transaction. All of you are going to say, I saw that, looks good. So now a week goes by, and Clement goes, hey, you were supposed to pay me back. It's been a week. I go, I don't remember that. We can look back at everyone on this call and say, hey, what happened last week? And everyone on this call is going to have a consensus or an agreement as to Robbie borrowed $10 from Clemens, and he said he was going to pay it back. So now all of you are acting as validators. And you might think, well, what if there's kind of an issue with this? What if Robbie went around and tried to buy everybody off? In a very small case, this perhaps could happen in terms of a 51% attack. But if we're dealing with, let's say, tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of validators or people who are saying this happened, in order for me to buy everyone out or convince everyone out becomes next to impossible or very, very difficult. It's very difficult to hack. So now everyone collectively is going to act as a source of truth. So even if I corrupt one, let's say there are 100 validators, the other 99 are going to disprove that one. And this is where it gets really powerful, is because now I've got to kind of corrupt the entire system opposed to corrupting a single point of entry. So a blockchain is a growing list of records. And the transaction that I just talked about could be a record. It's called a block. Each block contains cryptographic hashes of the previous block, a timestamp, a transaction data, and by design, the blockchain is resistant to modification. Again, some of these things are a little tricky, but we're going to talk about this as we move forward. And I am always encouraging people to kind of say, what the hell did you just say? So we're going to break this down. So what's inside of a block? While different block implementations will have different block structures, fundamentally a block contains, as I mentioned earlier, a list of transactions, which are the values, the senders, the receivers, and a variety of other information that we're not going to get into right now. This is just going to contain a transaction of person A sent money to person B, or it doesn't have to be about money. Person A did something to person B, or to group C or whatever. We're going to contain all this information in a block. Now, this block is going to kind of be pumped out, and we're going to talk about nodes. So nodes are essentially going to be validators. So everyone here could have their own node. And this node is going to be an observer as to a transaction. And then when it comes time to it, you're going to say that transaction happened. I'm going to validate the fact that, Robbie borrowed money from Clemens. So a blockchain network is entirely comprised of computer running node software and interacting with each other. That's what a node is. Everyone's going to talk to each other and say, hey, did you see that? Hey, did you see that? Hey, did you see that? And everyone's going to say, yes, 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 yes. And now we have a collective consensus saying everyone saw the same thing, so we know this to be true. There's no central authority. We all cook the pie together. We all get a slice of the pie together. While in reality, it's a little more complicated. You could think of each node as storing a copy of the blockchain with the protocols in place to ensure that new blocks are added to every node's chain, and it's in a very organized way. Kind of a simple way I hope to share this is, let's imagine we all lived in a village, and this village had a community board. And let's say Robbie bought a house in the village. Now I'm going to walk up to the community board, and I'm going to say, boom, Robbie bought a house, piece of paper. And everyone in the village here can go up to that and they can see it. And now I say, I just put $10,000 into my landscaping in my kitchen. That goes next to Robbie bought a house. Now the two things holding this together is going to be a wax seal, right? And so now Robbie did this and Robbie did that. Robbie did 10 things to his house. Everything holding it together is going to be a wax seal. So now if you go up to it and you're like, you know what, Robbie's house is pretty nice. I kind of want to buy it. You can go up to the community board and you can look at the wax seals. And if the wax seals are in place and they haven't been tampered with, then you know everything I posted is true. But if, let's say, a wax seal was broken or ripped off, and now there's a piece of the tape holding something together, you can say, well, I don't know if I trust that because that wax seal isn't there. It looks like somebody augmented this or somebody modified this, and now I've got to double check to make sure this is real. but everything that has a wax seal, I know to be true and I don't have to question it. This is in kind of a weird analogy. The way that blockchain works is we have these wax seals that holds everything together in a big line. And as long as those seals are in place, then I don't have to worry about it. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. So we can talk about the Ethereum virtual machine, which is what Ethereum is built on. And this is what we are always like trying to improve the efficiency of, and how we're building dApps, which are decentralized applications. A key component of Ethereum is it provides it's a virtual machine that runs code entirely on the blockchain. It's called the world computer. So it's deployed on the blockchain, and all the code deployed on the blockchain that we're writing contracts for, or what I mentioned earlier on the community board, these kind of you did this, and et cetera, how we have executable code on the Ethereum virtual machine is all written in a smart contract. And generally that smart contract is written in a language called Solidity. There are a couple of other languages, but the most popular one, which we're going to explore a little later, is called Solidity. So what if someone tries to hack the blockchain? Now, hopefully everyone has eyes on this GIF over here on the right-hand side. So we can see block 1 has a hash, and that hash is, we could just say real quick, 1Z8F, and the previous hash is 0. So this is the Genesis block. Let's say this is Robbie bought a house. This is the first block. Now the secondary block has a hash and the previous hash, and the third block has a hash and the previous hash. So they're building upon each other. So what we can see right here is in this previous hash area, 1Z8F, that's coming from the first one. So number 2 is pulling in the information from the first one, and it has a new hash itself. And then number 3 is going to be pulling in the hash from number 2, and it has a hash in itself. And this chain continues and continues and continues. Now we can see here, if all of a sudden, for some reason, someone tried to manipulate number 2, i.e. they took that wax seal off of something that I had done and they try to change it, that hash, which is 6BQ1, which is right here, is going to change. And so now when this changes, number 3 is going to be like, well, that's not what I had to begin with. What the hell is that about? And it's going to break because it doesn't have the consensus. It doesn't have the security behind it. So we can see that it's changed, and the blocks themselves are immutable. So we shouldn't see, once it's been posted, a change like this. So this is, I think, a very powerful and hopefully an easier way to kind of see how when you have a big long line of like 1 through 1,000 and you try to change number 4, everything after that's going to be like, well, number 4 changed. We got to make sure number 4 is good. And then once we can kind of come to the conclusion of what happened with number 4, we can continue to carry on. But everything is constantly checking itself, and this is how we can try to have kind of a security. So they're theoretically tamper-proof because they use a cryptographic fingerprint unique to each block. And this is kind of the consensus protocol. There has to be an agreement. So we can see that 3 doesn't have an agreement with 2 because this hash in this example is being augmented and 3 is capturing that. So hopefully that makes sense. We could talk about that a little more though. So what is Solidity? What are smart contracts? A really easy way to understand this, I think, or to visualize this, is a vending machine. You go up to a vending machine and you say, I want that bag of Cool Ranch Doritos, and it costs $1. You have to, it's a conditional. If I put in $1, then I get my Cool Ranch Doritos. If I put in $1.05, I get my Doritos and 5 cents back. If I put in 90 cents, I get nothing out of it. This is essentially how smart contracts work. It contains something of value. In this case, I said soda. I'm not going soda. I'm going Cool Ranch Doritos today. And you can provide an input. And so I'm going to use change, or we could talk about coins. And if we meet the conditional, it releases a value. So the vending machine keeps an asset safe and moves that asset once the input requirements are met. This kind of functionality is similar to how smart contracts work. Smart contract can protect and store a digital valuable and release it depending on the user input. And if that input is not met, then it doesn't work. If I don't give the vending machine the correct amount of what it needs to get what I want, no matter how much I beg, it just won't do it. So this is kind of how smart contracts work. Keep in mind, of course, this is a very high level example of how smart contracts work and what they can provide. It's more than just holding bags of chips. But I do think that hopefully the point remains clear that there are essentially these like conditionals that you can write yourself to work depending on the user's input. And unless that input matches exactly what you are intending, it's not going to happen. So they're very powerful, and they can be programmed to, execute a number of very complex applications. And hopefully this just helps you kind of wrap your head around what's going on with smart contracts. I'll pause for just a moment because I feel like my horse is getting a little hoarse. But if anyone has any questions, I know Clemens is in the chat, but if anyone wanted to kind of ask or mention anything, I'll give just a few seconds.
I would like to let everyone know that Clemens is adding some really good comments in the chat. So do make sure you have a look at that.
Cool. Thank you for that. Ooh, I should have paused here. This was purposely here to give your mind some rest because I've just been hammering on a lot of things relentlessly. And so this is kind of a visualization of smart contracts and smart contracts becoming executable actions, i.e. tokens that we can kind of interact with. It's mostly just pretty and to break up the space of logic, 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 logic. I have another job posting for you. Responsibilities, requirements, bonuses, benefits. You are coordinating, collaborating with backend devs, build, test, releasing, user-facing code. You have an understanding of HTML5, CSS, ideally Sass, JavaScript, React, TypeScript, Electron, Node.js, Webpack, Babel. If you have an understanding or interest in experience working with blockchain, P2P, which is going to be peer-to-peer media spaces, prior experiencing or contributing to open source, good eye for UX design, experience in product management. And then we have the benefits, we have competitive salary, we have company retreats, et cetera, et cetera. Can we all agree that this seems a little more palatable than perhaps the first one, which was just like, hey, do me a favor, know everything. But guess what? It's a Web3 job posting, right? So the point of this is to share the job posting that I just shared is dealing in the crypto space. I don't want you to feel as though you have to be some wizard of blockchain in order to contribute or to start working in the blockchain space. There's a lot of tools everyone in this call has already that they can utilize if they want to step into crypto, if they want to contribute to open source, if they want to find an avenue that's interesting to them that they can leverage to secure a position. And because it is the bleeding edge, because it is still quite new, if you can imagine the internet, we're still to a certain degree in that 56K speed. Maybe I'm revealing my age, but we're very quickly working toward that cable speed, where it's like all of a sudden like stuff is like happening quick and load times are like palatable and it's like really great. So because we're still so new, there are a lot of opportunities for people to contribute and to share, their tooling and their ideas and their contributions and to ideally get a career or to at least freelance in the space. There are so many docs and references though. Where do I even start? I hear this a lot because if you Google blockchain, if you Google Ethereum or Bitcoin, a bajillion things pop up and you're like, ugh, this is too much. And you fall down this big jargon hole as Alice is doing here. I myself fell down this hole too, and sometimes still fall down this hole. But what I want to do is I want to point you toward a couple of things. So on consensus.net/developers, and we have a link, perhaps Clemens, if you wanted to throw a link in there, we have a developer portal. And our developer portal, we have steps 1, 2, and 3. I personally wrote steps 2 and 3, which involve some code. Steps 1 introduces you to MetaMask. MetaMask is going to be, oh, thank you for that, Clemens. MetaMask is going to essentially be a wallet. Now, without falling into a hole of what's going on here, if I handed you $100, right, what are you going to do with it? You're not going to shove it in your front pocket. That seems a little dangerous. You're going to put it in your wallet. So similarly, in the crypto space or in the digital asset space, there has to be a wallet. So this is where you can store all of your assets, be them fiat, be it like a coin, like, you know, Ethereum or anything built in the Ethereum space, like any tokens you have or anything you want to kind of keep in this realm all go onto your wallet. And so at the end of this call, hopefully I'll talk about this a little more, but it's very frictionless or friction-free to get a wallet set up yourself. And you can have a public address that you share with everyone, and you should share with people, so that way there's an avenue. If I know everyone here I have Christmas presents for all of you, right? And I know you all live somewhere, but if I don't know an address to send it to, how am I going to give it to you? So this is what happens with the public address, is you say, hey, here's an address you can send this to. And I say, great. And then I send it. And then we can see it observed on the blockchain. We can say, hey, Robbie sent Jeff this Christmas present, and here it is, and it's been recorded, and everyone can observe this. But if I don't have the information, if I don't have the address, then I don't know where it goes. So MetaMask provides you with a place, and we'll see this in action in just a little bit, provides you with an address that you can share with everyone, so that way we can have an exchange of tokens. And also similarly, it provides you with some very private things that you should keep close, that you don't want to share. So no, people can mail you things to your house, but you don't want to give your keys away, so people can't come in your house. That's your house. Leave it that way. But if you want people to send you stuff, great. So I do suggest you go to the dev portal, check out steps 1, 2, and 3. This walks you through from a very low level of how to get a wallet, how to set it up, to all of a sudden, by the end of step 3, you have built a full decentralized application that you can and message me personally on Discord. You can showcase to people on your portfolio and say, hey, I built this. This is DeFi, or not DeFi per se. This is a decentralized application utilizing a lot of new technologies, and it's utilizing React and Solidity, and it all works, and I'm signing for it, and it's on the blockchain, and it's great. What do you think? And everybody's like, wow, that's amazing. And you're gonna say, I know, I did it, and everybody wins. We also have the Consensus Academy. So not to like shill the Academy, but what's great about the Academy is we have a lot of free open resources when it comes to webinars or meetups or other things that we've hosted that we want to share with people that have been pre-recorded. So these are real efforts and programs that help developers learn about the tech required to explore this space. I'm one of the instructors at the Consensus Academy. And so we walk people through how to develop Solidity, how to create projects, how to do their own thing. Actually, right now we're having graduation. It seems like similar to y'all, but we kind of walk people through. But this isn't like, hey, go sign up for this course. I mean, if you want to, let's talk about it. But check out the resources that we provide for free that hopefully will, spark some interest, and then you could take it upon yourself to go read documentation, to go look at tutorials that are all free online. Similarly to learning any language, you can go as deep as you want. If you want to learn everything on your own for free, you can. If you want to pay a little bit for it, you can. If you want to pay a lot for it, you can. It just comes down to what your prerogative is, and also like what your situation is. So I do want to say that the Academy offers a lot other than just like pay for this. You can check this out at that learn.consensus.net. We've got those free webinars, as we can see here. This is UX for blockchain. I think this is a fantastic webinar. We have a number of them. I know there are going to be some links in the chat. Okay, I need money. Fair. We all do. Got to pay rent, right? So here is where I think blockchain can get pretty interesting. We could talk about something called Gitcoin. So Gitcoin does two things, but we're just going to talk about one of them primarily, called bounties. Let's say Robbie here has a website I have to build. I don't have time, and I don't have a team. I don't want to do anything. I'm going to post a bounty. I'm going to say, I need this website built, and it's got to do ABC. And anyone who does this, I'm going to pay Ethereum to. I'll pay you Ether to do this work for me. And then Katrina says, okay, cool. That looks pretty good. I'll do it. So then Katrina says, I'm going to do it. And I say, okay, you got it? And you say, yeah. I say, okay, you got a week. And then a week later, you say, done. I say, okay, great. And then I pay you. So now not only have you contributed to open source, but you've also made money doing it. So now this looks good twofold, because now on your resume, you can say, I have absolutely contributed to open source. But now you've also like put money in your account. And just to make it clear, if it isn't already, if you have Bitcoin, or if you have Ethereum, or if you have whatever token out there, there's a number of them that I won't rattle off. You can convert those to USD. You can convert those to your currency to put in your bank account, to go to the grocery store, to pay your cell phone bill, to pay your rent, whatever. Just because it exists as like Bitcoin, Bitcoin doesn't have to stay Bitcoin. You can turn it into other things. So if you're getting paid in, let's say, Ethereum for a bounty, you can turn that into USD to do whatever you want with it. So Gitcoin, I think, is a really fantastic way to contribute to encourage developers to contribute to open source and to get paid doing it. This is something that I've done a number of times, and it is really cool. And it's not super, some of them can be very technical and they can require a lot of work in teams. Other of them are like, we need a design. We need a splash page. We need a Wikipedia article audited. We need someone to do this. We need some Python work. We need React work, or we need a team of 5 to do some very deep protocol level work. Like the bounties can fluctuate in terms of how much you get, and the effort is always going to be in relation to this. Games are a fun way. Who here knows about Flexbox Froggy? Hopefully some people do. There we go. Flexbox Froggy was my jam. How about, shoot, what's the other one? Grid Wars? Or is it like Grid Towers? This taught you about CSS Grid, which Grid is cool. I mean, I flex, but Grid is really cool. Anyway, these are gamified ways to kind of teach you about different technologies. So in my opinion, one of the biggest things to take away from this, if you're interested, is to check out Crypto Zombies. Crypto Zombies literally walks you through Solidity, how to write a little contract where you make an army of zombies that do your bidding and kill people for you. It's a little morbid, but the technology and what the team has done to create a really fun gamified way to walk you through how to make a smart contract is one of the best programs I've seen. So if anyone here is remotely curious about what is it like coding in this space, check out Crypto Zombies. It's free. In 3 clicks, you're doing it. And if you run into bugs, they're very good about pulling you and saying, here's the answer. Obviously, I suggest try to troubleshoot yourself, but it is just the best. And for fun, I'll go back and I'll revisit it just because I really do enjoy it. So I can't talk about that enough. Crypto Zombies is just such a wonderful, wonderful tool. How do I keep up with events though? So that's going to be the Biddle Network. I'm in charge of the Biddle Network. The Biddle Network is a global group or effort for community building when it comes to I'm interested in governance, I'm interested in finance, I'm interested in development, I'm interested in design. Whatever you're interested in the crypto space, there is an event globally happening for you. And what's interesting about COVID right now is because everything is going to be remote, nothing is like geo-locked. So if there's an interesting conversation happening in London, in Tokyo, in Malaysia, in Bogota, or in Peru, Sao Paulo, whatever, you could just go attend. Obviously, there might be some language barriers, but you can just go attend those, and those are really great. If anyone has any immediate questions about getting involved with this or knowing more, please reach out to me. I literally run this effort, and we talk about this in Discord, and I would be happy to share any information you want. But you can go on Meetup, and you can check out the Biddle Network, and this is about blockchain education, infrastructure development, community engagement, and everything in between. So this is a global event. This number is a little old. Right now it says 53,000 people. We're at about 72 now, 72,000. So it's growing quite quickly, and everyone in the community is very warm, and all we want to do is share the knowledge we have with people who are curious. So many web technologies have matured in established ecosystems. Something you have to keep in mind is the Web 2 space is fantastic, but there are a lot of vetted people in the Web 2 space. A lot of people have been in it for a long time, and they know people who've been in it for a long time, and it could be a little overwhelming. Blockchain and Ethereum are some of the newest technologies on the scene. The ecosystem needs new people with new ideas. This is something I talked about a little earlier. These sorts of technology or that word, revolutions only happen once a decade. Technological, take that, tongue beat you. The truth is we don't know the potential yet, right? Because it's still very new. But what we do know is that the industry is waking up, and we are getting a lot of traction. You're going to see commercials. We have large adopters. We have enterprises who are starting to look at this technology. Everyone is like, that hasn't gone away yet. And actually, that might make our lives a little easier. Maybe we should look into this. And so we're going to see, we've seen LinkedIn in 2020 one of the biggest job recruitment things that was on our chart was blockchain technology. And we see like one of the fastest growing job markets is going to be blockchain. Understanding this, and it's not necessarily say just be a developer, but being in this space, community manager, designer, researcher, protocol engineer, enterprise solutions, sales, etc. There are a number of avenues in which this is going to continue to grow. So I just want to give everyone kind of I want to stick it in your brain that being a junior developer, being a new developer is super, super scary. And it comes with a lot of rejection. And I'm not promising some magical land where everything is cured. But what I am trying to say is as you go out there and you start to look around, also remember you can look this way too. And this way could be a really good avenue. If you're interested in Web 2, you can also be interested in Web 3. So I'm just trying to create another pool for you to look into. So if you get a little depleted in one, you can start to look at the other. And so for me, this was like a very refreshing breath of fresh air as I was just facing tons and tons of no thank you, no thank yous, or similar to that job placement that I posted earlier, the job position where I wanted all these things. And I was like, what the heck? And the thing is there's so many developers right now, they can ask for that. And they don't have to pay that much because if you say no, someone else is going to say yes. It's as simple as that, right? So this is perhaps an avenue in which you can utilize a lot of the information and the tools you have in a new space that perhaps make more sense to you or they're more interesting for you. So in conclusion, with the plethora of developers, particularly those early in their career, standing out can be very difficult. I want to expose developers to a tech that is yet untapped by the masses to provide opportunities to explore, help you grow, and to develop yourselves. Everyone in this group has the ability to contribute to the space if they decide to, and I want you to feel empowered by that. I want you to feel good about the fact that you can already do something in this space, because I know early in tech, feeling good is rare. So you should feel good about this at the very least. So thank you, everyone, for letting me ramble. It would mean a great deal to me. I know that there's a link in the chat. If you took time to fill out this type form, here's a little proposal I have. If you fill this type form out and you also visit the dev portal, this walks you through obtaining a MetaMask wallet. There's no sensitive information you have to give out. There's no shill. I'm not trying to take anything from you. If you get a MetaMask wallet, it gives you a public address. When you first get a wallet, when you then get a wallet, fill this form out. And when you fill this form out, I'm going to ask you for your public address. And I can actually share this with you right now. So the way that this works is, check this out. Here's my MetaMask. It's a little plugin right here. If I click on this guy, which if you get your MetaMask wallet, you can see right here, this is going to be your address. You can copy this to your clipboard. So now if I open up, let's just say another tab, and I paste this in right here, this is my public address. So this is something that I can share with anyone. If you share yours with me, I will issue you an RFK token, which is one of my tokens. It's my token. Is it worth anything? No, it's not. But you can have it. I'll give you a bunch of them if you want. What we can do with this, though, is if you say, hey, that was a great presentation, or that was a terrible presentation, I'd love to talk to you about it, I want to find out more, you can cash those back into me. And so you can take, let's say, the 20 or 50 Robbie tokens I give you, and you can cash those in for half hour of my time. And perhaps I can point you in a direction, or I could try to sync you up, or we could talk about your code. Web 2, Web 3, doesn't matter. I'm here to help you. So this is, I think, a fun use case in which we could take a social token, my RFK token, you get it, and you say, cool, I want to talk to him more about whatever. It doesn't matter if it's tech or not tech, ideally tech. You cash those into me, and we set up a time, and we have a conversation. So I think this could be a really fun experiment if everyone wanted to perhaps partake in this. Don't worry about this code. You don't have to do that. Just if you fill that form out, that form is going to have a moment in which you can put your address in. And once you download MetaMask, which is very, very friction-free again, as soon as you plug it in, you're gonna see this, and you just grab that and you slap that in the type form, and you're good to go. If you run into any issues, I'll ask for your name and your email, and you can say, hey, I tried, it was weird, I ran into a bug. We could sort it out later. But I would love it if people took the time to fill that form out so that we can stay in touch. I can help you however I can. Oh, perfect. That's fine. I mean, it's all the same address. and we can talk about that. So super quick, I know we're running close on time. I have a page that is refreshing, and now my computer is just going to move at a glacial rate. This is classic code sharing in real time. Let's try this again. So I'm going to show you a hello world contract and what that looks like in Solidity. I'm sure everyone here is loosely familiar with the hello world life. And so here it is. It's going to be written in a .sol because that is Solidity. So what we do is we're going to start out by saying pragma Solidity. This is the compiler version. So all that's happening here is, hopefully, do we have eyes on this? Is this too big? Is this too small? Is this okay? I can make this big. I can make this giganto.
Probably zoom in just a little bit.
We're zooming. Here we go. Enhance.
Enhance. Perfect. There we go.
All right, cool. So we have a contract. That contract, we're going to call it, it's going to be hello world. What is that contract going to do? It's going to have a string. That string is going to be public, and we're going to call it message. We're going to set a constructor. A constructor only executes on the beginning of the deployment of a contract. That's going to be a string, and we're going to hold it in our initial memory, and it's going to be a init message, and that's going to be public. Then we're going to say message, which is up here, message, and we know what message is. It's going to be a public string, because that's right here, and message is going to be equal to init message, which is going to be right here. So essentially, this, which is this, is going to turn into this, which is this. So that's going to allow us to set a message. We're now going to have the function that's going to be update. So we're going to take the string. Again, we're going to store it in our local memory, and that's going to be new message. That's also going to be public. And so now message is going to equal new message. That might seem a little weird. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. We could talk about this, but check this out. So now I'm going to go ahead, and I am on Rink B. I'm going to deploy this. So I'm going to deploy this contract. We're going to do this in real time. So check this out. I'm deploying this in real time. And so because I'm deploying this in real time, I'm changing the state. I'm putting something on the blockchain. I have to pay for it. So I'm paying via gas. A very quick example without getting into the weeds here. Just because you own a car doesn't mean you could drive it around the world for free. You have to pay to use the car. So we are going to pay to change the state. We're going to pay to post something on the blockchain. Now I'm going to be using testnet. So this isn't real money. This is like free. This is just to experiment with. So this isn't real money. I could talk about some of the details about this a long time, but I do want to keep this high level. So you can have like real Ether and then test Ether. And so test Ether is just to experiment with, and that's what we're going to be doing now. So I have just deployed my contract, and we can see it down here. We see my hello world deployed. And so now we have our update, which we can see here. Our function is going to be update, and then we see our message. So it has to be a string. So because it's in strings, it's got to be in quote. I'm going to say, hey, everyone, thanks, if I could spell, thanks for being part of this. I'm going to update. So when I update, I'm going to be changing the state. And when I change the state, I'm updating the blockchain. I'm going to have to pay for that. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to confirm this transaction. And then down here in our terminal, we're going to see that that's going to happen. So now what's happening is similarly to the conversation I had earlier, I'm going to borrow money from Clemens. Everyone's going to see it. I just said, hey, everyone participating as a node, everyone observing this, I am changing the state. And oh, I misspelled everyone. Deal with it. It's going to say, hey, everyone, thanks for taking part in this. I'm updating it. So now I'm going to ask everyone to observe this. And I'm waiting for everyone to say, got it, you can't spell. I'm going to say, you're right, I can't. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click message. And when I click message, I'm going to be calling upon the state. And when I click this, I can see my string is, hey, everyone, thanks for being part of this. So now if I go ahead and I update this state again to, let's just say can't spell, and we'll throw that in here. When I update this, does anyone have an idea of what's going to happen? I know we're close on time, but anyone just want to shoot out? Go for it. Yes, correct, Clemens. But you don't count. You know this already. So I'm going to update. And when I update, I'm changing the state. And when I change the state, I'm going to pay for it because no longer is this state going to contain, hey, everyone, thanks for being part of this. The state is now being proposed to say, can't spell. So now this has to be signed by everyone. Everyone's going to observe this and say, okay, cool. You can't spell, got it. So now when I click on message and I update this, we can see the updated state is going to say can't spell. So this is very, very high level, but this is an example, and this is a nice platform in which you can experiment with Solidity, and there's no friction. You're not paying real money. You're not having to worry about hacking or anything crazy. You can just play around and see what's going on, and this is a lovely platform to do it. So I know we're close on time. I would love to field questions, but I did want to showcase some code in real time just to show you what's going on, and hopefully this doesn't look too foreign or too scary to you. So please, everyone, the floor is yours. It's been mine for too long.
Robbie, what is the name of the ID that you're using now?
It's called Remix. So if you go to remix.ethereum.org, you have total access to experimenting in this space.
Cool.
Well, I wanted to say thank you, Robbie. This was incredibly informational. Everybody's got a whole lot to chew on here, and I'm sure that you'll, definitely have some people coming your way for more information. I know I will. If nobody else has any questions, I had one quick question. I can't see everybody in the chat, so if anybody does, feel free to speak up. Otherwise, my question was, when you talk about these validators, these people that are validating this transaction, these nodes, and this may be a loaded question, who exactly is, in your example, it was everybody here that was observing it, but who in real life is observing these transactions, and how does that, is there like a sort of automated process for validation?
So that's a little tricky right now, only because we are transitioning away from proof of work to proof of stake. But generally what would happen is you're going to be running, I think I've got a little bit of an echo coming from somewhere.
Oh, that could be me.
Let's see. Oh, perhaps it is. But the idea is you are going to be setting up software that's going to be kind of running in the background as an observer. The eye of Sauron is going to be watching everything. And so what happens is when you are running this in the background and something happens, it's going to be essentially putting out a computational code, like an algorithm that your computer has to solve. And all the computers are going to rush to solve this as quick as possible. And the first one to solve it is going to get a little money for doing it. And this is kind of the incentivizing mechanism to having people take part in this. And just because it's like, well, why do I want to be a validator? And it's like, well, and this is, you'll see like big rigs, like big mining rigs where people have these GPUs like that are just all over the place because they're trying to very quickly solve these computational problems that are very complex in order to be a validator to get a little bit of money out of this. And so like, if you're like, well, I'm only getting like, say theoretically a quarter to observe Robbie needs money or he's going to borrow money from Clemens. But if you're validating several transactions or thousands of transactions in a short period of time, these quarters can quickly add up. Now we are transitioning away from this into something called proof of stake. This will be a whole other conversation, but we realize that proof of work is clunky. It takes a lot of electricity and it is expensive in a number of ways. So we're trying to streamline the proficiency of being a validator. But this still essentially requires you have software that is running constantly, that is keeping an eye on everything. And when you have the ability, your computer and your software will confirm something happened. And when everyone kind of confirms this, because you don't necessarily have to be the first person to confirm it, there has to be a number of people that say all of this happened. And so you can take part in confirming an action, and this helps the whole system run. Hopefully that answers it.
No, that's hugely informative. That makes a lot more sense than, I was thinking like you're actually kind of watching it, like physically watching and saying, yes, sure, that happened, but it's more of an automated kind of thing. I guess that would kind of explain why, every so often graphics cards go up in price astronomically.
Yes. Oh, no, 100%. Like the blockchain was a huge reason why GPUs just skyrocketed. Some of them in particular seem to be particularly efficient at mining. So, sticker prices $300-400, but you see them on eBay going for about $1,000. And this is 100% due to blockchain. So we are stepping away from that because for a number of reasons, but hopefully those GPUs are going to go down and everyone's going to be streaming at 200 FPS, no problem.
Yeah, utility and power bills went pretty high as well.
I'm sorry, what did?
I said utility and power bills went high with the mining.
Absolutely, absolutely. So then that went so far as to people were like setting up their rigs in geolocations that had like cheaper electricity because this was like a big suck for sure. Because you always have to consider, you know, I just put X amount of money into my GPU rig or my mining rig, and my electricity is this, and here's how much I'm getting. So how long do I have to mine, and how much do I have to mine before not only do I break even, but I turn a profit? And is that profit even like worth the hassle? So again, this is like we're kind of like pushing beyond this, but yeah, Clemens just makes a very, very good comment as well. Also, thank you, Clemens, for being so supportive in this.
Well, I think that's about gonna do it for our time. I wanted to say once again, thank you so much, Robbie. Thank you, Clemens, for coming in. We weren't expecting you, but we really appreciated all your feedback. Got a lot of good information out of you. I encourage everybody to check out consensys.net, Consensus Academy. Check out this, you know, give a shot this wallet exercise that Robbie advertised to us. I think this is an excellent way to get your foot in the door and kind of understand what's going on a little bit more fluidly. Robbie, we really appreciate your time here. We'd love to have you back. You know, I think this was incredibly informative, and I learned a lot myself. So I wanted to say thank you very much. Rick, did you have anything else you wanted to add before we call it?
No, I just want to say it was a great talk, great presentation, Robbie. As always, Clemens, you definitely added great comments in the chat, so we appreciate that. And I want to thank you guys for coming out.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. Really appreciate everyone's time. And if you do have questions, a very immediate way to access myself or Clemens or anyone within Consensus or in this space, check out the Discord. It's free. Just join it. There's no friction. And then we can try to point you toward whatever you're interested in or to help you get up and going. So with that said, again, I really appreciate everyone's time. It means a lot to me.
Thank you so much, Robbie. And everybody, thank you for coming today. This will be recorded, so go check it out on YouTube, spread it around. And everybody have a wonderful weekend and rest of your day. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.